We're streaming. We're live.
Ah! Hello, Soul Sisters.
We're live.
Nice. Awesome.
All right, I'm going to go on here and see who's watching.
Who's out there? Anyone?
Okay.
No.
You get started.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you this evening for this Soul Sisters live, which we have been so consistent about. By the way, we've been here every freaking Thursday for a long time, but we really enjoy. We love to do these. So we are talking about body positivity. What does it mean? What does it not mean? Some common misconceptions and myths around what this movement is, where it came from, and also 3, but most likely more, ways that you can take a few steps closer to being body positive. And Jen and I are going to start out by talking about what body positivity means for us. Personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I don't think it's ever like a place you arrive. It's like a process. I think of it as like an active thing. So I don't think that I don't know that I'll ever get to a point where I'll wake up every morning, I'll be like, I love my body and every part of it's amazing, but it's making sure that like I appreciate what it does, that my looks are not held at like that's not like the highest point of my value. So its level of importance is like lower. And that if I have moments where I'm discouraged about how it feels, it's not ruining my day or taking up that much time. You know what I mean? So like, I guess on the opposite end of the spectrum, like body negativity is not like consuming my thoughts and emotions and taking up that much energy. So on the other end is body positivity, where it's almost like not something, it's like you get a chance to not think about it as much.
Yeah, that's a great description. And what comes to mind when I hear you talking is like being at peace with your body and not fighting it, because I know in the time in my life where I was not body positive, it felt like a constant like battle with my body. I really felt like my body was like trying to sabotage me by needing food.
How dare you have cravings?
Not being able to work out like 9 hours a day, like God. But yeah, I mean, I really felt that way. And so for me, body positivity shows up in my life as me caring for my body from a place of respect and love. And love doesn't mean liking it. But I do have love for my body. I can say that now. And so the actions I take for my body come from that place of love. And that doesn't have anything to do with the way that my body looks. It just has to do with me. Hi, Derek.
Derek cameo.
Get out of here. No, I'm kidding. Male perspective. But yeah, so I mean, for me, it's like accepting the body that I have and working with it instead of against it. And that's kind of as simply as I can put it. We'll get into it a little bit more as we talk about the kind of the history of it and where 2 white straight-sized girls fit into this, to be honest, because like a lot of these movements that white cis straight-bodied women have become the center of, that is not where they have originated. So it's really important. Jen and I want to give credit to the history and the marginalized women that are at the heart of the movement. So Jen, you can kind of talk about
so that. This all kind of like this body positivity movement started in the 60s, and it was an effort to like make sure that fat people had like, equal, they weren't mistreated, and they had equal rights, and that they were treated equally, in particular like in medical situations. So for like Justine and I, like we're not necessarily treated like poorly because of our size. So, you know, that experience is very different versus somebody that's in a bigger body and they experience like just, you know, like medical people telling them to lose weight, disrespecting them, not listening to their pains, assuming that every issue they have is connected to their weight, you know, not being able to fit in a chair or a booth at a restaurant, you know, getting glared at if you sit next to someone like on an airplane, like just so many different things in life. So versus like a few negative thoughts in your head, like, you know what I mean? Like when you're actually facing those things in the outside world as well, it's very challenging.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really important point. Like, you know, there are women in all size bodies that experience their own war with themselves. But that's different than somebody who's actually in a bigger body experiencing aggression, microaggression, and stigma in their day-to-day life every time they walk out of the door. So that's important because we don't want to minimize the experience of women in all bodies who are saying, hey, but like I have body image issues, I've had eating disorder, you know, like because that shit is real. But the fact still remains that if you're in a bigger body, like you are being discriminated against actively. And that causes a whole nother level of harm that I have never experienced in the body that I have. I've wielded, you know, that shame onto myself, but I am not receiving that from the outside world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had kind of mentioned too that like this doesn't have to be another thing that as a woman you feel like you're failing at. Like if you have a negative thought about yourself, then you know, don't put that pressure on yourself that like you have to be like positive all the time and like, oh, why can't I just do this? Why can't I just fix this? And like the point is that there are just so many outside voices and sources that are telling you that you need to change, that you need to be thinner, that you're not good enough, all those things. Yeah. So like, you know, if this is challenging, like it's totally understandable, and like try not to, you know, it's like trying to be the best at meditating. Like there's no freaking award for that. So like there's no award for being like the most body positive. So
absolutely. And like normalizing that is so important. And like I talk about this a lot, this idea of like the second arrow, where it's like, you know, you look in the mirror and you see something you don't like. So that's the first arrow. It just happens, right? Like you have a reaction to something that you see. And then the second arrow is like then feeling bad about feeling bad, right? That's like the shit sandwich right there, right? And it's like, so that, you know, we can't stop the thoughts from arising all the, you know, that's something maybe eventually we can get to a place where those thoughts don't arise, but it's more just like noticing when they arise and having some kind of game plan maybe around like, wait a minute, like, you know, and Jen will get into a little bit of an exercise around that, but just having the awareness around like, ooh, like I'm having some like pretty negative body thoughts right now. And is like how can I kind of reframe or redirect myself because it's going to happen. And that's not really the problem. It's kind of like, what do we do when when it comes up, right? So for me, it's like 5 years ago, I would have that and immediately start planning my next diet. Mm-hmm. And immediately, right, like start trying to monitor my food and like think about how I can make my next workout more intense. So that's that. Now I have that thought, look in the mirror, see something I don't like, and I'm like, I'm not going to do anything. And like now, you're right. It's like, it's not that I don't have the thought, but I just have it. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, tomorrow I'll probably feel different, or it's just not, it's just like Jen kind of said, it's like its importance has just slowly slid down the ladder of my priorities. And I'm like, that's just not like what I'm going to focus on today. Like, so again, I think that's an important example because it's not that I'm looking in the mirror, loving what I see. That's not really what's happening. It's like, I probably have as many gripes as I always have had, but it's just that they don't carry the same importance in my mind anymore. So, and that's the kind of the practice. So I love that it's like, don't try to enforce your perfectionism on this, because it will
Yeah.
not work. It'll just be another stressful thing for you. And that comes from somebody who is a recovering perfectionist. That's its own
Absolutely.
process.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of think that covers like how we feel about it. And was there anything else that you wanted to share as far
Yeah,
as?
I mean, I think that one thing that bugs me about the way that the body positivity movement is been hijacked and how it's being misconceived, misinterpreted, one of those, is this idea of like, oh, this is just permission for people to be unhealthy. So there are many reasons why that bothers me, but number one is that is making this assumption that like fitness has to, like being fit and healthy has to look a certain way, which it doesn't. And number two is fitness and health doesn't have to be everyone's number one priority. And like, that's
Right.
like, we're just coming into this very strange, I mean, we've been headed here for a while, but like, we're in this very weird time where like people's health is like suddenly like everything is like what you eat and how you move your body. And like, it's like so important. And like, nobody owes you like health and fitness. Like if that's not somebody's priority, like that's just none of your business. Like, I don't know, it's very bizarre, this like how this concern culture for people that has a very dark side to it, because it's also like monitoring other people's bodies and behaviors, and like you just don't know what is going on with people.
Yeah,
so this idea
so
like people can be, so on the other side you might have somebody who's like, you know, eating perfectly fine, moving around, has a really rich social life, has a nice creative outlet, perfectly fine, but they don't fit into like this, like, you know, ideal fitness, you know, picture of fitness. And like that person's, you know, it's like, oh, getting like policed by people, you know, like that shit is so annoying. So like being body positive doesn't mean that you're like not necessarily working on better health or, you know, well-being. It's just that you're coming from a place of, like I said, working with your body from a place of self-care, and the outcome of that, you're just going to trust your body to kind of go where it feels it is best for it, right? It's not like I'm trying to jam my body into this tiny box because Kendall Jenner posted that picture of the fucking red bikini, and now like I must look like that, and now I'm going to try to look like that, right? It's like that is never going to work out for anybody.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a unhinged rant.
No, that's okay. I think also the other thing we had discussed on top of that too is that doesn't mean that we're going into this like all bodies are sexy, all bodies are beautiful, because like we're trying to like pull away that like appearance and beauty from like the value of women as human beings.
Yes,
So,
Jen. Yes, girl. That's exactly right. Like, and that is why being body positive is not about fucking the way you look or like how you feel about how you look. That's just not the top priority. And I think that there are a lot of social media accounts that are using a lot of hashtags, and it's like it can be a little bit confusing. And I mean,
I think body positivity just means I got other shit to deal with right now.
Yeah, like other things are important to me besides my freaking the way my body looks, you know, or even like whatever, like anyway, yeah. So I think that's a really great point. This is not a fashion show, sexy girl contest.
We'll have one of those.
Is that later. A thing? People
Probably.
Are do that.
There's a lot of those. Do you want to go start with your journal exercise, and I'm gonna let Oz out?
Okay, yeah.
Sticking with the outline.
So we're going to talk about a few ways that we can move move ourselves closer to being body positive. And for us, like, you're going to hear us interchange body positive with body acceptance because they are very closely related and in some ways pretty interchangeable. But one of the first things we can do is start to think about why we might be resisting accepting our bodies. There are many reasons for that. The society that we live in is constantly telling women to change, and that we're not good enough. And we certainly should not accept this because this is not right, right? Wrinkles and pimples and hairs and all the things, right? So it makes sense why we feel that way. But the journaling exercise basically asks you to imagine, what if you fully accepted yourself in this body as it is right now? What if you fully accepted yourself exactly as you are right now? And then write about how your life might be different. What priorities would change for you? Are there things that you've been putting off that you would do now if you weren't working towards changing your body? And that this was it, right? This is how, and so how would your life be different? What fears come up, right? And that's normal. If you're like, oh my God, that makes me so uncomfortable to think about that. Dig into that. Like, what's so scary about it for you? Some people, when they do this journal exercise, they feel relieved, right? Because it takes away so much of this energy and focus, perhaps every day as you try to stick to that diet, or try to drag your butt out to do a workout that you don't really enjoy. So a lot of that for me, when I did this journaling exercise, what I found was the theme was that it was a lot of like doing things for the sake of doing them instead of constantly being fixated on the outcome, and kind of just being able to let go of the outcome and like do things because I like to do them. And also a lot of more pleasure coming into my life, because a lot of times changing our body has to do with restriction. So I know that for me, so sad, but like I was really afraid of enjoying things, because enjoying things means like they're bad, right? Like anything that tastes good is bad, and it's bad for you, and it's wrong, right? So that was a big theme for me when I did that journaling exercise. So it's a pretty heady exercise, right? But it's interesting. You can even just use it as a thought experiment. You don't have to write anything down, but like just take a moment of quiet to be like, what if I just stopped? Like, what if you couldn't change your body? What if, like, you can think about it that way too. What if it wasn't even your choice? What if all of a sudden this was your body? That was it. Nothing you did could change it. Like, what would you do with your life? How would your life look different? I think it's a really cool thought experiment.
And I mean, it's a good reminder, as you said in there, you can do all of the things. You can control your actions as much as you can, but you really can't control the outcome. So like when you're dieting, you can do all the steps, but like you don't have control of how many pounds like come off the scale or any of that, or what part of your body they come off of, those things. So like might as well focus on like the steps that are going to make you feel like the habits and the actions that are going to help you feel better and be more vibrant and joyful in life, than like trying to get to this point that you like really can't necessarily control.
And Jen's point is so important, because not understanding what she just said is like incredibly dangerous for fat people and people in marginalized bodies. Like this, because not understanding that and just thinking calories in, calories out, right? Like, if you're in a fat body, that just means you're just not doing the right things. Like that is a lie. And it is a dangerous lie, because it perpetuates this idea that anyone in a bigger body just isn't trying hard enough, right? Like, and that is so dangerous. Like, it is just so important to really internalize what Jen just said. Like, you can eat what I eat. You could eat everything that I eat. Are you going to look like me? No, you're not going to look like me, right? Like, it's just as insane that this is the messaging that people are getting in the health and fitness world, in the medical world, that if like, and again, it is just so dangerous because our genetics and our DNA and our upbringing and our environment, like how, like our stress level, like there are so much more that goes into like how we look in the bodies that we're in and our health and everything, than this idea that like, oh, if you just ate correctly, like everyone can be thin or whatever, or it's really fucked up, and everybody needs to really check themselves on that.
And then I also had another idea for like a simple daily journaling activity or something you could ask yourself daily. And that's kind of like, how do I want my body to feel today? And I don't mean, like, I was thinking about this, I'm like, people are going to say like bloated. I don't want to be bloated. Like, I don't mean like that. I mean like energetic, calm, strong, confident, like, how do you want relaxed? And then start thinking about the things that you would do to like make that happen for you. So like, say like, I want my body to feel strong today. Like, okay, I'll get my workout in. That'll make me feel strong. Or, I'm gonna like help my husband move the furniture today. That'll make me feel strong. Or if I want my body to feel calm today, like, okay, well, I know that going for a walk like will make me feel calm, and like getting my meditation in. So like being a little more purposeful. That could be a fun daily journaling or thought exercise.
Yeah, I think that like things like that, I think, again, I think about myself in, 5 years ago, and that would have been like, like, that doesn't work. Like, what are you talking about? I don't know. I feel like I would have been like, that's so like lame or something, but like that shit really works. Like really, really works. And it seems like it shouldn't, because it's free and it's not complicated. But like that is the stuff that if you practice it every day, like really, really, really works. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's like an abundance, like you're like supporting yourself instead of restricting or taking away or punishing. You're like, how can I support like this idea of what I want my body to be today? I mean, that's nice. Like that's very pleasant.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I think it's just so interesting because like, yeah, that abundance versus scarcity mindset. And like when we're in this, like, this one track, like, okay, I got to diet, I got to burn calories, I got to do this. It's like, think about that. Like you're literally like just like taking things away from yourself, right? No, you don't get to eat that. And then you're going to burn all these calories. So then you're like, this energy is just gone, right? It's just like, it's just, again, when you think about self-care and caring for yourself and supporting your health, right? It's like it's just like, yikes, man. Rough stuff.
Yes. So there's some ideas for journaling activities. Also, as Justine discussed on Instagram, was exploring how your body likes to move.
Yeah. This might be a bold statement, but I think that there is a way that all people can move that is enjoyable to them. And it might be that because we are in this confine of like worthy movement, you know what I mean? Like, this is how I see it. Like walking didn't count. I am not fucking around. When I first started training, my personal training mentors said that walking didn't count. Like when I talk
for
about
what?
I don't even know what that even means, but it's like, oh, if clients in their PAR-Q like write that some of their activity is walking, that doesn't count for exercise or move. Like it was I'm like, I'm like, oh, okay, walking doesn't count. It's a very bizarre, like, I'm just saying that we're in this place of like, oh, you need to work out this way. And if you don't work out this way, then it's like not even worth doing anything, right? It's like totally insane way to think about things.
I was thinking of like some kind of cool different activities like bird watching or like mushroom foraging.
So cool.
Or archery.
What?
Yep. Yeah. Archery.
Oh my God. I thought of archery today too. Archery is so fucking fun. Because here's the thing, guys, it doesn't have to be like movement, like running around. Like it could also be like a skill, you know what I mean? Like a cool skill where you're like concentrating on something and you're like expressing yourself. I mean, there's like the sky is the fucking limit, man. It's like, and that's what I mean. I really believe that there is a way that like we all can physically express ourselves that we find joy in. I just think for a lot of us, it's like we've never given ourselves a chance because we're like, well, if I have an hour to move, I should be on a treadmill, or like I should be lifting weights, or I should be doing a spin class. Like I'm not going to waste my time like in my living room alone, just like kind of like moving to music and seeing how it feels, right? Which I have done, and it's pretty weird and great. But I do have kind of a lot more free time than most people probably. Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. I feel as though like we are animals. And like if you look, even adult animals, you know, primates in particular, but all animals, like they play. Even old animals, you know, still will, if given the opportunity, like you know, kind of wrestle with a chew toy, or I don't really know much about birds or what they do, but they probably like spin around each other. I'm not sure.
I mean, if I could fly, I'd be doing all kinds of cool stuff.
Like flapping all over. I'm not sure, but yeah. And so, you know, we're no different. And like our bodies are designed to move. And obviously there are people who have things going on that makes it difficult for them to move. So I want to have respect for that. But in general, yeah, I think we all have some activity that we just may not have found yet, that we can really find joy in, like dragon boating. And if you haven't tried it, you really should.
Yeah, there we go. Or yeah, like or discounting movement that you enjoy as not like intense enough to count as exercise or movement.
Full circle, it's just like the fucking food thing for me, where it is, it's like, because you enjoy it, you might be like, well, then it must not be productive because I'm having fun.
We're all just a bunch of masochists. What's wrong with us?
I mean, but I've definitely felt that way. Like I have to, you know, admit that there was a lot of time when I was teaching classes and stuff where I'm like, dance classes, like that's not like real.
Oh, we've heard Zumba be called a hobby, not workout.
Right. That's some bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I am sorry, everyone, for even ever thinking that, because dance is freaking cool shit, man. And like people need to be having more fun and de-stressing. Yeah.
All right. And then thirdly, prioritizing experiences over appearances. I love this one because it sounds good.
Because it does rhyme. I probably didn't make that up, but but anyway, yeah. I mean, there's so many examples to this. Like when I first was thinking about this, I was thinking, you know, just personally, like I used to wear a lot of clothes that were like not comfortable for me, that I thought looked good though. And so like that was like the first thing that came to mind, is like, and I still have a hard time with that. Like famously, I really wanted to have a summer of wearing like baggy clothes.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
And I really didn't follow through on it because it was too difficult. I kept looking at myself in baggy clothes and I'm like, I hate this. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Even though like they're so comfortable. So I did incorporate some in, but that's not, this is just one very small example of this. The other more broad idea is like, you know, I think this has been a meme going around, at least my social media community, about like, you know, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be looking back at memories thinking about how skinny you looked, or how oh, that wedding where I finally fit into that size, whatever dress. You know, no, you're not going to say like, oh, I danced with my nephew and like, that was so fun, you know, or like, remember when we all did the fucking Macarena and it was like a blast because Uncle Jerry was like so drunk and he fell over and like, that was so funny. We all laughed, right? Like when you really think about what make up memories, or even like when you're trying to, if you tell a story, I gave the example of like, we went cave diving in Mexico. It's not like I'm like, yeah, we went cave diving and oh my God, you should have seen how skinny I looked. Like, excuse me, like what? No, like no one, like I don't even remember that being like, I don't remember that, like how I felt I looked that day. I just remember that cave diving was fucking cool. And like, that was a really cool experience, So, so like women in particular will pass up on experiences because of how they perceive that they, how they feel that they are going to be perceived by others, that their appearance will be judged. And that's a goddamn tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've talked about this, like you may go into it, yes, fearful and uncomfortable about that, but like maybe pushing through that and realizing that it's like when you're not drinking and you're nervous about going to like a dinner or party. And I feel like the first 10 minutes is all you think about, but then once you're in it, you like totally forget about that part that you just spent like 24 hours worrying about leading up to it. So it might be something that you stress about, but then once you get there and you start interacting with people or doing whatever the thing is, it might just start to like go to the back of your mind anyway. So that's nice.
That's a great point. I think it's just another time to remind everyone that it is a practice. And it might be that the first time that you wear, like instead of wearing high heels, even though they make you look so much hotter in the jeans you're wearing, but you're like, I'm going to be walking so much and like my freaking Tiva sandals are so comfortable, right? Like, I know that sounds nuts, but like I have been in that position where I'm just like agonizing over like, these look so cute, but like these are really comfortable, right? It's like it's practice and proving to yourself that like you can have a great time even if like you're wearing something that like that you might not believe is like as flattering for your body or whatever the case is. It does take practice though, and I don't want to make it seem like I've got that down because I definitely do not. But it's so funny because I remember so many times like getting so dressed up and being like, I look so good. And then going to like work or going somewhere and then like using the bathroom and looking in the mirror and being like, how could I have ever thought this looked good? That I look terrible. Like literally like 45 minutes after leaving the house.
Oh no, that's a lot.
That used to happen to me all the time. It was
Here.
like, again, it's such a perception thing. It's just like, it's so weird. Like, and again, and that's probably like, body dysmorphia and whatever, that's a whole other thing. But just how fickle it is.
You know what I think is crazy, which happens to me, is that I have a lot of times where I am perfectly enjoying myself and I'm not that worried about my body. But then a photo is taken and then I see that photo and I'm like, oh God, that one is a tough one. I'll just admit that I struggle with that because I can like not, I can, not think about it. And then I'll see a photo and I'll be like, oh, I looked like that.
Yes. No, I think that that's actually really common. That's a good point, Jen.
Yes. And then that's just like taking a deep breath. Try not to keep looking at it.
But also like knowing that like the people around us that like we are truly like that are truly our kin is the word I'm going to use. Like
they're not looking at the photo the way that we're looking.
No, and also like they don't even like perceive us. Like I think about like you or like my brother or like my friends that I like really love. Like I just could fucking care less. Like I just, and honestly, like I'm so skewed. Like I can like, I guess that's not true. Like I can kind of tell like when you get your hair done occasionally or something like that. But like, I feel like most of the times I'm like, oh my God, Jen, like you look so pretty there or whatever. You're just like, really? Oh, I guess I like showered maybe. Like, it's just so funny because I just really feel like when it's people who are important to us, like, first of all, we're just not looking at each other like that. And like, secondly, nobody fucking cares at all. Yeah. it's hard. I know that doesn't like soothe anybody necessarily, but like, it's just important to remember that, like, and no one is looking at us like we are looking at ourselves either.
No, with that like fine, with like the magnifying glass.
God, I know I had somebody that I won't name names, but like I remember having this conversation with her about like how her like she felt like her rib cage was really big. And when we would take photos, she would be like, oh, like that's so weird. Don't you think that looks weird? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Or like even just the arm, like the arm thing with the photo, that kind of thing. It's just like, don't we all kind of know that like if you have your arm smashed in, it's like that your arm doesn't really look like that normally? Not that it shouldn't even fucking matter, but I'm just saying it's just, yeah, there's a lot of little things like that. But no, you're not alone, Jen.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. I think we've yelled, or at least I've yelled into my laptop sufficiently.
Yep. That's what these Thursday nights are for.
Very cathartic, therapeutic.
And everybody, I got my first COVID vaccine today. I just want to announce that. Woo! Not dead yet.
We're gonna be cuddling each other so soon, Jen.
I know. Well, this going through a breakup, I'm like, oh, I'm not getting any hugs. I'm actually gonna like turn into a hugger.
A hugger. Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, because you're not like super touchy-feely person.
No, but I am with a significant other in the privacy of our home.
That's hilarious. No PDA.
No, I don't even mind that actually.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the hugs, and we'll be able to do our lives in person,
thigh to thigh, next to each other.
IRL.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, it's gonna happen soon. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Per usual, we are going to have a little bit of a more lighthearted, I suppose.
Yeah, we're going to talk about knee health next week.
Yeah, we are. We're going to talk about I can say like
we're going to talk about how to make your knees look skinnier next week.
It was so funny. One time a client was complaining about the way her knees looked, and she like just I'm not going to say specifically, but she just was like, see how they do this? And like my knees do that. And I was like, you jerk. Like, that's what my knees look like. And she's like, oh, she felt so bad. I mean, I really didn't care at that point. I was in like a better place, but it was just funny. I'm like, oh my God, now we're going to get the knees. The knees are a problem now. Anyway, what were we just saying? We're going to talk about knee health.
Yeah, and we're going to say good night.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for stopping.